Here we are, the final video in the series. Tom gets a live set together for Nick's Festival using the Push 3. It was a success. Technically flawless, people enjoyed it, so that's always a plus. I had a really good time, and now I'm back in New Zealand and I can kind of fill in some gaps and make a summary video, because remember where we left off last was I had all of these kind of stems of different volumes, and I still needed to get a mastering chain. I wanted to test it. I needed to get this into session mode, figure out all this stuff. So I did record some stuff while I was on the road and at the airport. And for the stuff I didn't record, I'm going to go over that with you in depth in this video. But first, let's talk about the mastering. So my housemate is a masterer and has some really nice speakers. And he very kindly gave me an hour or so of his time. And we built this rack here. So we have a ozone and then a limiter. This ozone is just here for a reference, but let me just play this to you so you can hear how it sounds. Here it is off. Here it is on. So you can hear it sounds pretty damn good. We have a multi-band dynamics here, so we're doing 4 different things. You can have a look at these settings if you know what's up. We have a maximizer, and then this EQ isn't doing anything, it's just for preference. So that's pretty much all we're using for the most part, is the multi-band dynamics. Then we have a limiter with plus 0.5 dB and a negative 0.1 ceiling, and a look ahead to 3 milliseconds. And this sounded pretty good. So that's all good. I was really happy with that. Really grateful for his time in kind of constructing this. I know it's a catch-all type situation. It's difficult to have one setting for so many tracks of so many different dynamics and styles and all that kind of thing. But I believe we did the best we could considering the time restraints. I'll put some links up to him on the screen. Go check him out. Really awesome guy. So my next step was, how do I get this as Ableton devices? So I went ahead and built this chain here. I think I got it as best as I could, again given the time constraints, but if you just want to have a look here and have a gander, and I did this A/B type technique here. So if we open up the chain, you'll see I basically have his chains with the ozones on chain number 1, and as I moved this up, it moved over to the live one, and I basically sat there and I listened and skipped around and listened and skipped around, and I went A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, and I tweaked and tweaked and tweaked until I got them sounding as close as I could together. So let me just do a little bit of that for you. So I'm pretty happy with how this worked. I am not an expert at this kind of stuff. I never have been. I don't know if I ever will be. I would like to be. But if you think you can do it better, let me know. I'm going to link this particular rack in the description. You can download this, and I'll also link you, I'll zip up some stems. If you think you can do a better job, please let me know. Teach me something. I really value some more input on how I went about this. I also had this tracks individual here. Now I didn't have time to fill this in, but I had this on a chain selector as well. This was so that I could add mastering, or maybe just even some slight EQing per track, so I could just move up to the next one as each track incremented. That was kind of if I felt like some tracks just really needed a little bit of a boost somewhere or something else, but I never ended up using that. That was because of time constraints, but that's an interesting concept to explore in the future. A lot of people don't realize you can do this for mastering. You know, you can just have a rack with multiple chains, one for each track, and you can just move your chain selector around as each new song comes in. So that's all good. I was very happy with that. That now means that we're using complete Ableton devices. We've got a utility which is changing the bass to mono at 120 Hertz. We've got a multi-band compressor. Unfortunately, this isn't mid-side, and it also only has 3 bands, whereas this one has 4. But I think I did the best I could with my knowledge and what we had available. Then I have a limiter here. This is a little bit different. We've got a 1.5 millisecond look ahead, negative 10 ceiling, and a plus 1 decibels. The glue compressor I added in later. I wasn't sure about this. I'm like, nah, that's going to change the sound quite drastically. And it does squish it just a little bit more than the ozone one. Let me just flick back over here. Anyway, that's the mastering side of things. Let's move on to the next step. So we've now moved to my laptop. This is me recording my screen on my laptop. I'm now sitting at the airport at 7:43 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I've got 2 hours until my flight boards. I need to get some administrative stuff done. There's quite a few technical things I need to do. This is not ready to go on the push 3. So in this particular video, what I'm doing is I'm laying out the tracks. So the first thing I do is I create 6 audio tracks. You can see we've got bass, kick, percussion, synth, tech, and rest. And then I duplicate those again. So these are going to be my deck 1 and my deck 2, or track 1 and track 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these tracks down. So there's the first track moved into that new set of 6. And then I'm going to move the second one down like so. So I kind of zigzag between 1 and 2. And I'm trying to match these up. I'm trying to find a good place where the intros and the outros match up. You can see this is where things drop because of the waveforms, trying to get that drop at the end of where the bass comes out of this one, or just finding a good place where I can do a transition. So if we move ahead here, let's just play this. Now obviously all of the tracks are playing here, and that's not what I'd be doing live. I'd have volume control and I'd be playing with filters and stuff, so I wouldn't have it just playing all at once. I'd be, that's something to do in the actual mixing live situation. But this is what I did for all of the tracks. So if I just skip ahead here, you'll see I kind of pick and mix and go, okay, that one needs to go there, that one needs to go there, and that one needs to go there. And I'm just zigzagging from the top to the bottom to the top to the bottom all the way across until we reach kind of the last track. And you'll see the last track here, this track starts at 155, then goes to 160, and then 165, and then up to 175. And I was a little bit worried about warping those stems because that's quite an interesting track progression to have all of those different BPMs in one track. But Ableton picked it up straight away. It did give me a few little warp markers that weren't necessary, but for the most part, this worked really, really well. So I was quite happy with that. Let me just skip right to the end here so you can see the whole thing. So this is what it looked like laid out. We had track 1, 2, 3, and you see they zigzag from this set of 6 to this set of 6. And now I've deleted that original set of 6 where these tracks were placed on. Now, this is pre-planning my tracks for sure, and it's also pretty much pre-planning where I'm going to mix them. But at this stage, using the new technology, I chose to do it the safe way and keep things nice and ordered. So this is, I can veer from this, but this is a kind of a laid out structure for us. Of course, I'm not going to play them in arrangement view. So let's go ahead and open the chopping into bits video. So again, we're at the airport. It's now 8:23. And this one, what I'm doing is I'm going through each track and I am chopping the individual phrases. So I'm kind of listening to a phrase, going, okay, this phrase here is when the bass and stuff comes in. This one is a bit of a fake drop. This one's a bit of an intro. So whenever something interesting new happens in the progression, perhaps some different type of phrasing or a new element is introduced, I add a slice point, and I just do that throughout the track. So until we've got a whole bunch of interesting bits and pieces like this, and then I do it for all of the tracks. And then I did a bit of a test here. What I did is I copied all these, I cut all these, select them all, I cut them, I go into session view, I go up to the top left and I paste them, and I'm like, oh shit, I've done something wrong. We're missing a chunk, which means I've left out a cut point somewhere there. So I go, oh, okay, I'll go back here, find the point where I screwed up. There it is there. And now we're going to go and put these back into here. And now we've got a series of session view loops, all one after the other, of exactly how the tune is supposed to progress. Again, this is really similar to my old moving from the studio to live performance videos. It's the same technique. I'm just making sure that this track will continuously play as I intended it. Then what we do, hopefully I do it quickly, I go into my follow actions tab and I click on follow actions, and I've chosen the next one. Now the great thing about follow actions these days is they look at the size of the clip and they will play the next clip when that clip is finished. So back when we were looking at these slices here, some of these are 32 bars, some of them are 16, some of them are 64, some of them are like 4 bars for weird drops. That used to be an issue, but it's not an issue anymore. Like all we have to do is turn on follow actions, make sure it's on next, and play this master scene number 1, and it will play through the track exactly how we want it to. Of course, we can veer off and we can trigger other samples and do different things, but it's a really handy thing to be able to have all your stems play in the right order. Anyway, this video is just me chopping and pasting and chopping and pasting, and you can see I move from one to the other. And I just do them all. Let's just skip ahead. As I scroll here, we've got all of the tracks now in session view. So we are no longer using arrangement view. Arrangement view is done. But this isn't really good enough because I know that on the push and on the screen, this is going to be really confusing. I'm not going to have time to rename all of these individual loops here. And looking on the push 3 screen, it's not going to tell me much about what's coming up or what's currently playing. So if we look at the naming scenes video, I basically trigger a scene. Don't know why it's so quiet. It's probably because it was turned down on my computer. But anyway, you can see I'm just listening to the next scene and then I'm naming it something which I'll understand what part of the music it is. Breakdown. And look, this whole video is just me going through and naming every single scene. And this is really handy because on the push 3, it will always be telling me what's next, what's previous. When the new track comes in, you'll see I go Mind Gobby's intro, and all of these things are relevant to me. I know what they are. You might have your own naming convention for how you like to understand things. And yeah, this took, well, it took me 14 minutes to go through 90 minutes of loops, which was quite effective, I reckon. And then the final one is, again, I'm like, I really would like to be able to rename all of these clips, but I just don't have the time. So what I did is I went through whenever there was an intro. Oh no, the first thing I did is I recolored each of the different tracks just because I thought that would be more visually helpful and pleasing on the push. And then you'll see what I do is I go through, and what I'm doing here is whenever there is a breakdown, I'm making the color black. Whenever there is a drop, I'm making the color red. And this is a time management approach. So I'm really running out of time here. I'm about, oh no, it's 2:36 now, so I think I'm on a layover in Brisbane or something. But my next flight's coming up soon, and I'm just not going to be able to do much more. And I'm like, what can I do with the time that I've got given that will help me the most when I'm playing this set? And by having at least the drops and the breakdowns colored, they're the most prominent parts of each track. That's going to give me a bit of help. So you'll see I just go through in this video and do all this stuff. This is now, in theory, ready to be put on the push 3. So I can connect to Wi-Fi with my push and my laptop, or in my case it was my phone's hotspot, and I can now drag and drop this onto the push. It's very, very bare bones. This isn't how I would like it to be. I wouldn't like to play this set live because all I really have are volume controls. I don't have any effects, I don't have any synths to play or anything like that. But it's this stage where I started feeling safe because I knew no matter what, I would still have something to play. I thought I was managing my time well, and I've been working on this really hard, as you could probably see, but it was quite a big feat to move this over to the push 3. But at this stage, I was relaxed. I'm like, everything after this is fun. Everything after this adds to the set that's already going to be playing. So let's move on to the next segment of this video where I talk about that stuff. From this point onwards, I was unable to film any more of the preparation steps that I took towards getting this set ready. The situation had changed. I'd arrived in Cairns, Queensland, and it was raining, and it was 12:30 a.m. We went straight to the festival. So everything was just a bit difficult for me to actually do any more tutorial videos. However, they did set me up in a nice bell tent, and I did spend quite a lot more time working on this. I arrived on Friday evening. I wasn't playing till Monday evening, so I had 3 days, and the space was really nice. I set up all my gear. I was able to work using my laptop battery and the push battery until I ran out of power, and then I'd just go charge it up again. And so every day, as well as enjoying myself at the festival, I would spend an hour or two working on this. And what I'm going to show you in this segment, the last segment of the video, is the exact set that I used on the push 3. This is exactly the same file as on my push 3, and I'm going to talk you through the changes that I made and what's different and show you a few examples. So first off, in the last segment I mentioned that having the tracks zigzag down like this is all good. It means that songs are going to play nicely, but it wasn't lively enough for me. I want to be doing stuff. I want to be having a good time. I want stuff that I've pre-planned. I want stuff that I can improvise and all that kind of thing. And I do have a bunch of synthesizers and stuff up here, but I'm going to show you first the per track effects. So each one of these audio tracks has a filter rack on it, and you'll see the filter rack has a low pass and a high pass and a resonance. And this just gives me an added element of control when I'm doing mixes. For example, if I was to play this bass here, and I don't want to mix it away with just the volume, I can use the high pass or the low pass. So each one of these channels will have those filters, that exact same filter chain. And this is really handy because on the push 3 I can just select that track and the first device is selected, and then the first 3 macros will control the low pass, the high pass, and the resonance. So that's all good. The next thing I had is this push CDJ style effect. So I wanted to be able to have some easy effects that I could play with on every single channel. So I created this custom rack which has 8 different effects and a custom Max for Live patch which is easy for me to use on the push 3, and this allows me to do CDJ style effects on every single track. So I'm going to go ahead and play this one here, and you'll see here's our CDJ effects. I have an amount and a color. I'm going to choose space, turn it on, bring the color up, and bring the amount up. So you see that creates a reverb style effect for us, which is really, really cool. So if we go up here, it's a more high pass reverb. Down here, it's a low pass reverb. Let's bring these back to the center. Let's go echo. If I go to the right, it's a time delay. And if I go to the left, sorry, it's a sync delay. If I go to the left, it's a time delay. We've got a phaser flanger. We have a noise. We have a crush. We have a transient shaper. This one's quite fun. Just adds a little bit of accent to things or dulls them down. We have a gate. Gotta watch the amount on this one, it's quite sensitive. And if I go to the left, it's a timed gate. Then we have a warp. This plays with spectral time, spectral resonator. It's a bit crazy. Gotta be a bit careful with this one. So those are the effects that I decided to have on every channel, and by adding these it gave me such a huge amount of ways to be able to be expressive with the elements that already exist. Now these are global effects, so every single one of these track has one of these, and what I'll do is I'll talk about the mapping. So this is the controller I used. I used a Novation Launch Control XL. I just used one, and I just used one preset mode, and I didn't really actually have enough knobs and buttons to play with, but I'm going to show you how I map these all out. To start off with, these 6 sliders here control the volumes of the bass, kick, percussion, synth, tech, and rest on channel 1. So if I go ahead and let's just play this, bring the kick out, bring the bass line, let's just trigger this one here. So you might be able to tell that these 6 knobs here, just above them, are the bass, kick, percussion, synth, tech, and rest of the second track. So I could take this kick out and bring this one in, And let's slowly start bringing the percussion in. Bring everything else in. Then I could go ahead and bring the bass out with the filter. And so on and so on. So those are my main volume controls, these ones and these ones here. For the effects controls, these control the amount on the relative track. So remember, this is bass, kick, percussion, synth, tech, and rest. These will control the amount on both of them. So if I go back to my techie channel here, this controls the amount of the tech channel, this controls the color. This turns it off and on, and this turns all of them off and on because I was actually running out of buttons. I do have these buttons here, but I'll explain what these do in a minute. So this will turn on all of those effects globally. So if we look at every track here, you'll see by pushing this button, each one of these tracks will turn on the global effects. And then I had these 8 buttons mapped to the 8 different effects. So we've got space, echo, phaser flanger, noise, crush, transient, gate, and warp. So to give you an idea of that working, so that's the mappings for all of those effects, and that gives me a huge amount of control. That was a lot of fun. That almost could have cut it. I also had 2 return tracks. I have a time, which is a very short delay, and I had a dub, which is kind of a short, which is a longer synced echo. These are controlled with these 2 channels here. So if I go to my time channel and move this up and down, you'll see this controls the gain of the channel, which is controlling the gain on a utility at the end of the chain. This controls the feedback of the delay. This controls the filter frequency, so I can use a kind of a bandpass to kind of get the frequencies I want. And then we have the time, and this controls the time in milliseconds. So that's all good, but then I use these 6 buttons to send something across to those channels. So for example, look at the send values here, send A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I can turn those off like so. So if I'm playing this here, and I want to send this to this time delay, I push this. Now the next one, which is a dub delay, you'll see we have this again on the output gain. This is controlling the output here of the actual device. We have our feedback, and we have our low and our high pass filters. So this allows us to do big dub outs, and you'll hear this a lot in the set recording. So once again, let me just solo this again, and I'm going to send that across to the dub delay. Let's bring the feedback down a bit. I also have the reverb just on a single button, so that was kind of fun. So that is everything that I had mapped here on the Novation Launch Control XL. It gave me a really vast amount of things to play with as far as mixing the 2 tracks together. A great amount of versatility with those new effects units to be able to do different things to all the existing sounds, and then we just had a cheeky return section for doing dub outs and really fast delays. The next segment, I'm just going to show you what I did on a per track level. So as I said, I went through every single track and figured out one particular thing that I wanted to do on that track that was unique to that track, and either create a new instrument such as these things up here, or have an effect on a particular element of the track in one of these 6. So these per track things that I'm going to do, I wrote them all down on a list. I think I mentioned that I sat there in my headphones on my phone and just jotted down some notes, and then eventually came to a conclusion that this list here is exactly what I'm going to do. So you can see, first off, we've got Antics, Synth, Filter, Bass. So that means I can play with a synth, which I've named here, which is called Le Lascard, and just go ahead and turn that filter down. Anyway, you get the idea. So that was a good fun to play with, and of course the filter, the bass, I was going to do that near the end. The next one was Gravity. This one I decided on using a spectral time. So if we go back again to our tech track, you'll notice that I do actually have a spectral time here, on the synth track. You'll see we have a spectral time. Now this was a lot of fun to play with, so especially doing this breakdown. Where is it here? And you'll see that the push has given me all of the main 8 controls that I need on the spectral time. The main one being this dry wet value here, which is kind of important. I actually want to go into this delay track here, and I can bring the dry wet up and play with the feedback, the mask, the spray, and the tilt. Really like the spectral time. So that was a lot of fun. The next one I had was the Opaque, and we have some nice strings here. Because I'm playing this off my computer and I'm not using ASIO drivers, there's a bit of a delay, so I'm not able to accurately, not sure how awesome this is going to sound, but just as an idea, so you can see I can play some nice chords there. The Studio View might have also noticed that I have pitched these all into the key of C. That's just because I was running out of time and I didn't want to have to go in and change the key using the scale mode every time. So everything is pretty much in C, major, minor, or Phrygian dominant, which I'll get to in a minute. But just adding a pitch device and adjusting the semitones so that no matter what I played in C minor, it was going to play in the relevant key in the tune. So that was pretty handy. The next one we had Girth. I'm just going to really quickly bounce through these. Let's turn off chromatic mode. So Girth has this kind of call and response part. And I was just kind of having a lot of fun with that. Oh, we also had the synth breakdown, so this was quite fun. I was doing a lot of kind of wailing stuff, like good fun. The next one was Hyperion, and what did I put down for this one? Glitch build. So Hyperion, I pretty much just used a spectral time once again. It was just so much fun, and this one has a really kind of good kind of build up sound that you can do that with here. So and so on and so on. The next one, Mind Gobbies, we have a MPE choir. So Mind Gobbies has a kind of a very organy kind of area where it's all kind of somber and mournful. And so here we just have some. Let me just play it. I thought that was pretty fun. The next one we had switch arms. Again, with switch arms, I did a time delay type thing. So same deal. It just has like a really big kind of build up area. And I'll do it one more time quickly, just so you can see. Lots of fun. The next one we had Devastated Septum. What did I put down for this? Oh yeah, so we have a particular synth pad for this one here. These are all MPE. I'm just really shooting through these now. This one, which is currently called Doob Doob. You also notice that I set the BPM for when the BPM needs to change. So when I did actually trigger the scene here, it jumps up to 140. So let's just go to this continue part here. And I've actually got an arpeggiator here. This one needs to be in Phrygian dominant just to get that nice twist to it. And I could go in and kind of change the arpeggiator speed if I wanted to. That one was a lot of fun. I think something happened with my velocity in that one, in the actual set, and I had this set to random, which was creating some really loud notes coming through, and I couldn't quite figure out why. So I guess that's probably the only real technical problem I had. I figured it out just near the end of where I was going to be playing this particular part. And then we had Rukukiki here, which again I just played with I used the time delay for this one. It was just a bit of fun. I don't have the launch control plugged in now because I've replaced it with the push, but I was just doing that for this one. In regard, it's electric party time. It's a very kind of 8-bit style thing, so we've got some 8-bit magic going on here, and I had the echo enabled so I could kind of and yeah, I was just mucking around with that and having a bit of fun. And then we had Pattern of the Music. This one I used the beat repeat, which I haven't actually used for a long time. So where is the hard part? So if we look at the check channel here, you'll see we've got the Pattern of the Music glitcher. And this one allows me to kind of like turn up the amount and the chance. So having a lot of fun with that one there. For the very last track, which was the fun one, the really fast one that goes into the super crazy stuff. I was just mucking around with the per track effects and the delays and stuff. So this delay here. And I have to thank Ludic Stan for providing me with a few fun samples and loops to play over the top of that. That was really awesome. Thanks for that. And then that was the end of the set. So once I'd composed all of these things in Ableton Live, and I was like, yes, this is perfect, I went across, I connected my laptop to my phone, I set up a hotspot, a Wi-Fi hotspot, I connected my push to my phone, and then the push just comes up here. It just comes up in your library. I went into my projects folder, I saved this project on my laptop, I did a collect all and save, and then I simply dragged it into here. I just dragged the entire folder. It took maybe 10 minutes with all of those WAV files, but boom, I've just switched to my phone so I can actually show you working on the push now. So my push is in standalone mode. I've dragged that folder across, I've let it do its thing. I'm just going to push the load button, and there's my set there, NYX 2023. Let's select it, click it, and now it's loading. It does take maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds, just because there's quite a large amount of data to actually load in the set, but it does load, which you'll see in a minute. And the cool thing was, from that point onwards, I didn't need to do anything on my laptop anymore. I could take this and I could take this, and I went down, I found a river which was away from the festival. It was quiet, it was under a tree, it was cool, it was calm, and I just took these two and my in-ear monitors, and this gave me over 2 hours, I reckon, of battery time. So I was able to play the set and practice it somewhere else. And I can't tell you how awesome it is to be able to do that without a laptop, without fucking around with Windows and just like all these potential problems that might arise from using a laptop. It's just taking this and using it. And as you can see now, it's loaded the set. You see we've got our clips already laid out for us like so. I can move across, I can move down, and we've turned that into that. And just to show you it playing, let's just trigger a scene here. I've got to give you some volume. So if I just move this across, and just to show you that this works, there's the kick gone, there's the bass gone, there's the percussion gone. Everything just worked out of the box. This is connected into this, and the audio out is now coming into my sound card. I'm not using my computer at all. And yeah, it just worked flawlessly. And when I wanted to play with one of those effects, I'd just move across. Here's the opaque strings. I'd go into my keys mode. Pretty hard to do it with one hand, but yeah, you get the idea. I don't really have a lot more to say about that. I mean, it just worked. It just worked pretty much out of the box. I didn't come across I thought I was going to come across a whole bunch of problems when I was performing. And I know I'm a very Ableton friendly guy and they look after me and I promote their shit, but I'm saying this with complete honesty here. I didn't come across a single issue, apart from stuff which was all my fault, such as accidentally having to random up on the velocity in that arpeggiated ARP line. It just worked. So with that, I'm going to end the video. If you stay tuned, there's going to be a professionally filmed, very nice kind of summary of my set that will be coming out soon. We had an amazing team taking some footage, and they're currently editing and cutting that together. So if you want to see my bass and me using this gear and actually see this whole series come to fruition, do the like and subscribe thing and all that stuff. Yeah, I'll put a few pictures up of my set from some amazing photographers. Check them out, link will be in the description. And thank you very much for coming on this journey with me. It's been really, really insightful, incredibly fun, and this is version 1 of the Push 3 Tom Cosm set. I'm really looking forward to the next one and evolving this more. Definitely need more controllers. This wasn't enough buttons and knobs for me. I think I'll get another one of these involved. And yeah, have a fantastic day.